And let's turn to football. That's what everybody wants from us here on Thursday. It's Bills and Texans tonight on Thursday Night Football. Houston 5.5-point dogs, totals at 43.5. Take us through it, Dave. What is the model like here?
Yeah, I'll pull up our projections in a minute, but real quick, we got Texans plus 5.5 at 54%, little 4.2% edge there. Under 43.5 is a coin flip, 50-50. Negative edge on that, minus 1.2, so no value at all. And then Texans money line, 32%, little 2.2% edge, fair at plus 210. I believe you can currently get them up to plus 230. That's at Caesars. You may want to shop around, of course, see if there's a better price that we're not picking up on. But as the model works, the best price should be in here. So a little bit of value there if you think the Texans pull out the upset. I'll pull up our projections here and we'll walk through this game a little bit more in detail. So as I mentioned, the best bet from the model is Texans plus 5.5, 54.2% exactly, 2.2% edge, minus 108 on FanDuel. My initial thought is that I don't hate the bet at all. I don't love the number. Screams a hook on the outside of a late field goal to me. So even plus 6 would be far more favorable. Would consider that if you're going to play this. We talked about this with some other spreads this week, but at minus 108 for the standard line, you're probably getting pretty decent odds just buying that half a point, which can make all the difference. Probably only about minus 120 or so on that spread. This was even plus 100 yesterday when I started putting this together. So should be some value out there to get the Texans at plus 6. If you, like me, aren't really a fan of the 5.5 number. The Texans, for their shortcomings, are a hard team to fade. Davis Mills under center hasn't been a complete disaster. They're actually winning some games, 3 of their last 4, including against a pretty solid Niners team. They lost to the Broncos, whose defense is absolutely elite, by just 3. And they still have the best defense in the NFL by yards allowed, 258.1 per game total, which is just really hard for any team to get drives going. A lot of field goals against this team. So keeping scores low. We've seen that all year in Texans games. They are just one of 3 teams with under 20 touchdowns allowed all season. Broncos and Rams have 17. So those are elite defenses. The company that they are in is shut your offense down and let Davis Mills, for now, chip away and keep us in games, which has been happening. Bills are missing Dalton Kincaid, Curtis Samuel, and newly signed Mecole Hardman, which is kind of just funny that they got beat so badly. They went out, signed Mecole Hardman because they needed a receiver. Then Josh Allen did it all himself last week, and now Mecole Hardman isn't playing. So just kind of a lot up in the air there for Buffalo, especially in the passing game, which is something we'll talk about in a little bit. Josh Allen went absolutely bonkers last week, as mentioned, 6 total touchdowns, but the Bucs defense is not even close to the Texans level. So personally, I think it's going to be a little hard for the Bills to really stack points in this one. I'm sure they'll have a few decent drives, but the passing game, as we talked about, leaves so much to be desired. They don't have pretty much their best player in it in Dalton Kincaid, Josh Allen's most reliable target. And this Texans defense has continued to shut teams down time and time again. So I just don't like the plus 5.5. If this was plus 6, I'd be smashing it. So I would just say, personally, I'm not fading the model at all, but I would just take that extra half a point because you're in a much better spot.
I like it. Yeah, I really don't know what to do with the Bills. I feel like this team is vulnerable. I think we've discussed that pretty much at length this year. And they're still overpriced a little bit in the market for me. So I think they are a good fade target team. Houston can just they're so capable of like a total dud any given week. And I worry what this team will be this week given the spot here. I think Kincaid out is big for the Bills. Like he's kind of been the go-to when things get tough guy for me. It's kind of Josh Allen's one reliable safety valve that I trust on that team. And without him, I do think it's a sizable loss. So I lean to the Texans here as well. I'm glad that's the side the model shows value on. I'm just still kind of up in the air on how strongly I want to play this. Like, can I get this from a lean in my mind to an official play? I don't fully know if I'm going to get there yet, but I don't know. Is that sort of where you're at on this too? Or like, is this an official play for you?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I would make it official at 6.5, personally. I just the number's gross to me. And like you said, the Texans, they're capable of a dud. They've been pretty solid lately. Davis Mills is getting Nico Collins the ball, which I'll be honest, I didn't really think would happen. I thought he would suffer pretty poorly, and I believe he's got 75 plus yards in 3 straight games. I think one game with 90 and one over 100. Bills passing defense is really good, so there might not be as many opportunities tonight. But yeah, I just think it's going to be a close grinder of a game, probably an ugly game, I think, given the penchant for both of these defenses. In the passing game, particularly, the Bills' rushing defense is very soft, and we'll talk about that a good bit. But it's just there's not a lot to be confident in from any particular player angle, which just screams close, low-scoring, ugly game to me. So yeah, I will say I'll personally make this a play at +6. But yeah,
key number. Yeah, you're using my terminology now. We're looking for key number.
Mm-hmm.
So
you've converted me.
I honestly, I think for me, like, and there's no way to do this that shows value, but if it was 7, I think I'd play it. Even 6 is like, I don't want to get hooked by a point because the Bills win by a touchdown. I might look to live bet this game, honestly. If Buffalo gets out to like an early, maybe score on the first drive, even like a 3-0 lead, and it just bumps the line up to above a touchdown, that might be the time that I try to jump in. That can be a really smart way to bet too. I feel like we don't talk enough about live betting on this show. So with these numbers, it's very important with NFL betting to kind of wait for the right spot. To me, at 5.5, hope the Bills score first, maybe jump on it at 7 or above. You got anything to add on that outlook?
Only that, yeah, I think that's a great idea. If they score an early field goal, you could probably get this at 8.5, which is a great number. And speaking of live betting, an underutilized part of the Dimers website is we do have an NFL live betting tool that every quarter will put up recommended bets based on the latest probabilities. And sometimes you can find some pretty sneaky value in there. So don't sleep on that.
50% off Dimers Pro. Take advantage of tools like this at your disposal. All right, so there's our hub for Bills Texans on Thursday night. We've got our same game parlay coming soon as well. First, let's take you through some betting angles to keep an eye on for Thursday night football. Beginning with this, Houston's running backs against a Bills rushing defense that is just not very good. We have talked about the Houston backfield and the changes between Woody Marks and Nick Chubb a few different times throughout the season. Chubb's been okay. He's averaging just over 4 yards per carry this year. He has single-digit touches in 3 of his last 5 games. He has not scored since week 5. So if you are looking to back Nick Chubb, you are a braver man than I. But does that make you want to back Woody Marks, Dave?
It does. I will also say Nick Chubb's line is only like 22.5. He's hit that in 8 out of 10 games this season. It's one of our top trends. So you can get him really low. But I mean, single digit carries is really rough. Granted, this is a really soft defense. So you might actually be able to steal some pretty good Chubb value if you're willing to go above his line. But I'm not really going to touch Chubb in this, except for maybe one little thing we'll talk about in a bit. But yeah, I love Marks in this game. We'll talk about him some more. He's just getting all the volume lately, double-digit touches in 5 straight games. Season high 18 carries last week, though he didn't do a ton with it. 44 yards, probably an outlier in that regard. He's also getting all the receiving work, 3+ targets in 4 of his last 5. He's not the most efficient runner, 3.5 yards per carry, but the upside is with him based on volume, age, and his scoring equity in this offense. 4 touchdowns to Nick Chubb's 2. And like we said, hasn't scored since week 5, Chubb. That 4 touchdowns is tied for the most on this team with Nico Collins. So it just seems like him just kind of going through some maybe rookie growing pains. He wasn't a top projected running back prospect, so there's going to be some adjustment period, but it really seems like the team's moving to him as the go-to guy. It's all Woody in our projections, 64.5 rushing yards, 15.1 receiving, and a 43.7% anytime TD probability. Meanwhile, Nick Chubb just 26.4 rushing, 6-point run receiving, and only a 17% anytime TD probability. So pretty big stay away for me for Chubb as far as anything beyond like the FanDuel jackpot, which we'll talk about. However, this Bills rushing defense is bad. It's 153 yards per game, second most in the NFL. 17 TDs allowed is the most. So could be a big game for both backs. Don't really know what the distribution is going to be like. If you're going off of recent games, it's going to be all Woody Marks with some Nick Chubb change of pace stuff. But with the Bills, like pretty elite passing defense, under 170 yards per game, I think. Your only concern here really is if the Texans fall behind too much too early and they have to abandon the run. But I don't think you're even going to do that in such a good spot. And then try, if you're falling behind, I don't think you're going to try and attack a top 2 passing defense when you can attack a 31st ranked rushing defense. So,
yep, yeah, makes sense. I think back to even just the game value too on 5.5 with Houston. To me, it's going to be heavy dose of running if they're going to find success. Like if they cover, I think that means successful ground games from probably both of these guys at the numbers. So to me, almost, I think I'd rather back the props on the ground than Houston at plus 5.5. And like I said, wait to fire live if you want to back Houston outright on the spread. Let's look elsewhere in this game. Let's talk Buffalo's passing offense here. Josh Allen was amazing last week. He went into do-it-myself mode, 6 total touchdowns. You compared this to the Infinity Stones.
Yeah, there were 6 of them, 6 touchdowns, 6 stones. He full on went, I'll do it myself, Thanos mode, 3 on the ground, 3 in the air. Had to overcome 2 picks, which does not sit well with me because he cost me the highest single-player fantasy score side prize in my league. So I'm a little bitter without those 4 points from the picks. But I don't think he's going to do that again this week. This Texans defense is absolutely locked down. As we mentioned earlier, been able to snuff out just about any offense that they've faced, both fronts, passing and rushing. Khalil Shakir here leads all receivers in our projections, 49.7 yards, but only a 27% TD probability. Then you got Josh Palmer at 35 yards, 15% touchdown. Gabe Davis, 32 yards, 17% touchdown. And then Dawson Knox, 30 yards also, 21% touchdown. So it's really bleak for the Bills pass catchers, and you really don't know how they're going to be distributed because this is both an elite defense by the Texans that's probably going to limit Josh Allen's passing volume. You might be looking at 5 targets max for some of these guys, and that just doesn't sit well with me as far as if you're trying to back them. I'm not touching any Bills like receiving props in this game unless I'm going under, which I'll probably do like a chaos. All things go wrong for the Bills, bet the under on a bunch of props. But it's just not really an offense I want a piece of through the air.
Yeah, there's no inspiring recipients. There just isn't. It's been a story of parts of Josh's career, but certainly this year it's the barest that it has gotten in the Josh Allen cupboard. So I don't blame you. I like the disaster zone prop angle, though. Like maybe cook up just like every possible disaster night goes wrong. Houston moneyline parlay too. I'm intrigued.
Yeah. Some positive correlation if you mix those up a bit too. So you probably won't get crazy odds, but you'll things will line up pretty well.
Yep. All right, let's talk about the Thursday Night Football jackpot on FanDuel. How should we go after this ugly game?
So I'm gonna try and capitalize on it as we usually do with some deep cuts. You can look in here, see our first touchdown probabilities led by James Cook, 11.7%, Josh Allen, 11%, Woody Marks, 10.4%. So none of those are bad choices as far as getting in the end zone first or last. You are going to get a much smaller bonus bet return if it is one of them. And if we're attacking a weakness in this game, it's basically only the Bills' rushing defense. Both passing defenses are very good, and the Texans' rushing defense is very good. So you're betting against the grain if you go against either of those. But if you go on the ground, you can go Nick Chubb, be a little contrarian. He's 2.9% for a first touchdown. And as I mentioned, only 15% for an anytime. That should make him a pretty low, at least in the larger picture, a low bet guy for this promo. There is another play I do like based on the deep cut and value from the model. See if it's still here. Yep. Ty Johnson. He's plus 650 for an anytime touchdown. 18% probability, or 16% now, but that would be fair odds around plus 500. He's had both of his touchdowns this season in his past 3 games. He's also peaked at 4 touches in any game this season. So he's a super long shot. There's not a lot of trends to go by, but he did have a pretty big play when he scored in one of his recent games. I don't remember if it was last week or the week before, but he just, I don't know. He's a guy that's not going away, even though his volume is low. He seems to get some key touches. He has gotten them in the red zone. And yeah, I mean, if they get close, you got to figure that they might try to do something a little creative rather than just do the Josh Allen up the middle or James Cook in the red zone at the goal line. So I would go Nick Chubb or Ty Johnson in this one. Personally, Ty Johnson's going to get you theoretically a quote unquote huge bonus bet compared to Nick Chubb. So consider that as well when you're making your selection. I don't know which one I'll do. Ask me in the Dimers Discord. I'll have a better idea for you closer to kickoff.
Yeah, let's go big. I'll go Ty Johnson. That's my official lock it in move this week. I think this game's ugly. When it's ugly, I like to take the higher risk shots at this. I don't know. It's hard for me to honestly. I know I'm supposed to come on here and like build excitement for this game. The only exciting part of this game for me is
we're getting paid by Amazon.
It's right. It's trying to find the ugliest ways to bet it, and to me, a Ty Johnson first touchdown feels right up the alley for me. Let's go. All right. Here's an exciting way to bet Thursday Night Football. Undoubtedly, it's our prime time parlay.
Thursday Night Lotto.
You can play this one plus 405 odds at DraftKings. They have a 30% boost that you can get this up to almost plus 550. What do we got?
All right. So we're going to start off with Josh Allen, but as mentioned, the passing game is tough, so we're not touching it. We're going for 25 plus rushing yards. He's projected for 33.6 above his line of 31.5. You can consider that 31.5. I was happy to tease it down for the sake of this parlay. I would have put him in at 30 plus, but they don't have that option on DraftKings. So consider that for your own wagers when you do this. He's hit 25 plus rushing yards in 8 out of 10 games this season. His rushing appeal is much higher in this game, given that he'll probably have trouble getting things going through the air. Texans only allow 19 rushing yards to QBs per game, but that's not really the whole story, I think, on paper with that single stat. That's still only 18th in the NFL, so it's not like elite levels. And QBs have hit 30-plus rushing yards in 3 straight games against them. Cam Ward, Trevor Lawrence, and Bo Nix. Quarterbacks, I think you could say, are at least of a similar mold to Josh Allen with the penchant for rushing. But Bo Nix has rushed for 140 yards less, I can't think of which one, than Josh Allen all season. And he's the closest one to them. So there's really nothing that has me shying away from Josh Allen putting in the work with his legs and at least getting 25 yards here. I think he's a threat for a little bit of a ladder play. Not anything supported by the model there, but something that my personal gut says could be in play tonight. Woody Marks takes up our next 2 legs. We're going to get him for 60-plus rushing yards with a projection of 65.1 from the Dimers model. Now, he's only hit 60 yards in 3 of 10 games, but again, not really the full story. You basically have to throw out his first 3 games when he saw single-digit carries when Chubb was the lead back. Since he's taken over this backfield, he's hit this in 3 of 6 games, getting double-digit carries in each of those. He's facing a Bills defense ranked 31st versus the run, allowing 121.2 rush yards per game to running backs. He's coming off it's a season-high 18 carries, as mentioned, and a projection of 65.1 here really supports the over. And if you're into this sort of thing, he's had an alternating trend of 60 plus and under 60 over his past 5 games. He went on under last week. So, the alternating trend would put him at 60 this week. I don't know how much stock you want to put into something like that. But as mentioned, I think his 44-yard game last week feels like an outlier given he had his highest volume. And it was kind of a weird divisional game against the Titans, even though they should have been rolling in it. And we'll close out with him, Woody Marks, to score. As mentioned, 4 touchdowns is the most on the team. All of them have come in the red zone. He has 16 red zone carries over the past 4 weeks compared to Chubb's 5, and Chubb has not converted any of those into a score. The Bills' red zone defense is substantially better than their actual whole rushing defense, but it's not enough to shy away from Marks. It's not like they shut teams completely down. His 43.7% TD probability is the highest for Houston and the third highest in this game. Plus 405, you can get yourself a 30% boost at DraftKings. Get this to about plus 550.
I like this too because as we're talking through all of the sort of, unheralded skill position guys in this game on both sides and saying, yeah, it's an ugly game. It's going to be randoms that might be worth taking a sprinkle on. We're really backing the 2 guys that we know are going to be heavily involved in this game. Josh Allen is going to do Josh Allen things. Woody Marks is really the only person on the Texans worth backing week to week right now for me. So really on a 3-legger, we do this every single week. Sometimes I like when 2 of the legs are one player and we're just rooting for a big Woody Marks game tonight.
Yeah.
4-1. I feel really good about this, Dave. Good work on this.
Thank you, sir. Hopefully we cash, and we're talking about this on next week's show.
Yes, sir. We can only dream. All right, folks, that is everything you need to know for Thursday Night Football. Good luck with your bets in Bills Texans tonight.